Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be going through every single U.S. state that has polling data for 2024, Biden versus Trump. We're going to go through all of them, even the obvious ones. I just thought it would be a fun thing to do. I will note, I believe both the District of Columbia and one other state do not, I think it's Delaware. So the District of Columbia and Delaware will not be in here because there's just no polling for the 2024 election, and Biden will win both of those places for sure. But beginning with Alabama, so you can see there was kind of a recent poll taken with Trump plus 20, plus 19. Obviously, Donald Trump is going to win Alabama very easily, likely by around 20 points. Next, we're looking at Alaska. Normally, like the last state of the night, along with Hawaii, Trump is up by around 10 to 12 points. Last poll done around early March. In 2020, it was kind of weird. Alaska, they took forever to call it. Moving on to Arizona. So this is a big state, obviously, swing state. Donald Trump enjoying a decent lead recently, plus 3, plus 5, plus 6, plus 5. Trump is definitely trending in Arizona. He's been able to hold off Biden, even though Biden has improved his polling numbers in a lot of swing states. Arizona, at least according to these numbers, really has not been won. So I would say right now, Trump sitting decently in Arizona. Obviously, the news out of Arizona on abortion, not ideal for Republicans, but I don't think it's going to sink Trump. He's the favorite right now in Arizona. Moving on to Arkansas, Trump up significantly. You can see a DeSantis poll. I mean, the last poll was in early October, but we all know Trump is going to win Arkansas. Even DeSantis was sitting plus 18 over Biden. Moving on to California, obviously Biden's going to win California. We'll see if Trump can at least be slightly competitive in it. It's unlikely. Biden very likely will win this state by around 15, I would say. Although, I don't know. There's a poll in late February. Biden was only up by 12 when you include everyone. And most of these polls are just Trump-Biden head-to-head. You can see on the right side where it says more. Those are the polls where it includes RFK Jr., Jill Stein, Cornel West, people like that. Third-party options. Next, we do have Colorado. That's an interesting poll there. The second one from late February to early March. Biden plus 4. There's a poll with Biden plus 5. So yeah, I would still expect Biden to win Colorado, but these numbers are not, it's not like he has a crazy insurmountable lead right now. It would be very surprising, though, if Trump made this state really competitive. It kind of feels like Texas for conservatives. You know, liberals always talk about making Texas competitive, and it's just never going to happen. Colorado, it feels like right now, being a red state, it's just not going to happen for Trump, but those are decent numbers. Connecticut, I would expect Biden to win Connecticut pretty easily. The last poll was in October, so, I mean, Biden plus 9. Next state you do have is Florida, so this is a big change here for 2024. Trump becoming the heavy favorite in both Florida and Ohio. Those states really no longer swing states. You can see if you look and you say, oh, it says plus 5 Biden. That was against Nikki Haley. There has just been no polling on the state of Florida, and the reason is because nobody is treating it like a swing state. When you look at all the important swing states, there's tons of polling. With Florida, it's just not happening because everyone knows Trump is going to win this state by at least probably 5-6 points, maybe even more. Next, you do have Georgia, very important state, extremely critical, really opens up the map for Trump if he can hold on and win. I guess not hold on, take back Georgia because he did lose it in 2020, but you can see when you include everyone, Trump's lead jumps from plus 1 to plus 4, plus 3, plus 3, plus 5. Trump up in all the recent polls. But you can see the most recent one, he's only up by 1. It's basically a swing state, but I would give Trump the edge. I mean, he's up in all these polls. You have to give him at least a slight edge and also account for the polling error, which tends to overfavor Democrats in the general elections. Next, you do have Idaho. Always fun to see a poll come out of Idaho. Trump plus 28. That poll from early October, very long ago, but Trump is going to win Idaho, obviously. Next, you do have Illinois. So interesting, Illinois head-to-head matchup from Emerson. This was early October, but Biden only plus 10. I don't know if you include all of them. Maybe Biden only wins Illinois by 9 or 10 points. I definitely think he'll win the state, obviously, but it might be closer than most people think. Indiana, one of the first states that always gets called on election night. You can see a Nikki Haley poll there with her sitting, what was it, plus 16, Trump plus 21. in early March. Trump's obviously going to win this state, and it very likely will be the first state that gets called on election night. Next, you do have Iowa. So Iowa's another one, especially in 2016. It was considered a swing state. 2020, people kind of thought Trump was going to win it. You know, it's kind of like Iowa in 2020 is what everyone thinks Florida is in 2024. It was once a swing state. Now it's gone to the right to where it's really insurmountable for the Democrats to try and make it up. So Iowa is a clear right-wing state at this point, and I would expect Trump to win this state by around 10 points. Kansas, obviously pro-Trump. Not nearly, in terms of polling as much as like an Oklahoma, but still Trump sitting plus 14 to plus 16. I know, Democrats have kind of come up in Kansas, but it's obviously not going to happen in 2024. Kentucky, heavily Trump, obviously. Moving on to Louisiana, another one. There was one single poll with Trump almost a year ago, plus 15. DeSantis was sitting plus 13. Obviously, the Republican is going to win that. Maine, so both Maine and Nebraska are really annoying because they go by districts, almost kind of like gerrymandering type. You could see Trump in terms, I don't know, that's probably, that has to be one of the districts. He's not plus 20 statewide, but I believe, that Pan Atlantic Research has him plus 6 statewide. I don't know. It's very hard to tell, but I would say this. If Maine becomes a winner-take-all, I would give Trump probably a 30 to 40% chance to win the state. Biden would be the favorite, but it's not insurmountable. It's not like Nebraska. I know there's this narrative going around that, Republicans are trying to gain an extra electoral vote by making Nebraska winner-take-all. Why don't Democrats do it with Maine? Well, think about it. Trump actually has a chance to win Maine. Biden has no chance in Nebraska. So if both Maine and Nebraska become winner-take-all, it's a net positive for Trump. Moving on to Maryland, obviously, another dimple state. Biden's going to win that very easily. Next, you do have Massachusetts, another dimple state. Biden up by a ton. Most recent poll done with all of them, Biden sitting plus 18. Michigan, another huge swing state. And this has been kind of one of the interesting trends to follow, with Trump up in many of these Michigan polls, looking like he's going to perform better, at least right now in Michigan, than even in Pennsylvania. So we'll have to continue to follow this, but Trump, up by 2-3. It's close, but Trump is enjoying a nice little lead there. Minnesota, the most recent poll coming very early April, so a newly updated poll with Biden only plus 2. What an amazing poll for Trump. That is just head-to-head. If you include RFK Jr., it would not surprise me at all if Biden went to plus 1, or maybe Trump, in terms of polling, could be leading in Minnesota if you include RFK Jr. and Cornel West. That's very interesting. Can Trump make Minnesota a true swing state? He tried it in 2016. We'll see if he can do it in 2024. Moving on to Mississippi, Trump, really no polls. I mean, there was one with Trump and DeSantis. Trump's going to win that state. Missouri, you do have Trump plus 18 in the most recent poll in early January. He's going to win that state as well. A lot of polling out of Montana for whatever reason, but Trump, really not a lot of recent polling, I guess. Early March was the last one. Trump sitting around plus 20 to plus 22. Moving on to Nebraska. So this is where the statewide becomes important. Trump sitting plus 18 and then plus 16. If Nebraska becomes statewide, I think Trump's going to win it by around 20 points. If they do the districts, Biden is probably going to get one electoral vote. He'll probably win that one district by about 5 points. Moving on to Nevada, another huge swing state, and a very similar situation to Georgia, to Michigan, where the numbers are close, but Trump is up in virtually every poll. As you see, even in the head-to-head, the Wall Street Journal, Trump sitting plus 4 in a poll that came out in mid-March. So we'll have to see new polling updates there, but Trump looking decent. New Hampshire, obviously, Biden is going to win. Funny to see Nikki Haley, though, up by 3, beating Biden in New Hampshire, but I would expect Biden to win New Hampshire, maybe by about 6 or 7. Moving on to New Jersey, interesting recent poll that came out of New Jersey, Biden only plus 5, including everyone else. I don't think Trump's going to win New Jersey, but that is not good news for Biden. New Mexico, really no polling on New Mexico. The last poll that came out was August against DeSantis. I mean, Biden's under 10. Interesting DeSantis Biden poll that came out basically a year ago that had Biden plus 2. It's funny to see these polls, but I mean, New Mexico's, I don't think Trump's going to win it, but it might be closer than expected. New York, so a decent amount of polling that came out in New York, at least in January, February. Biden might only win New York by 9 or 10 points. It'll be something to follow. He's certainly going to win the state, though. Next, we do have North Carolina. North Carolina's kind of unique. I mean, I guess you can compare it kind of to Florida, where Trump won it in both 2016 and 2020 by narrow margins. And maybe he expands his lead and wins it by more in 2024. I think that's what's going to happen with North Carolina. And these polls suggest it's going to be accurate in terms of Trump winning by about 6 or 7 points. That's what I would expect. Maybe as little as 4 or 5, but it should be more than his victory in 2020 and 2016. North Dakota, one single poll in October, Trump plus 37. Ohio, this is very similar to Florida. It is not a swing state. I know people were talking about, well, what if Biden's not allowed on the ballot? It's not going to matter. It's irrelevant. Trump's going to win this state by double digits. Moving on to Oklahoma. This is the interesting comparison. Kansas versus Oklahoma. It's crazy. Trump only up by 14, 15 in Kansas. He's doubling that in Oklahoma, up by almost 30 points there. Oregon, Biden sitting plus 10, plus 15. I would say certainly Biden's going to win Oregon. Pennsylvania. So here's the swing state where Biden is performing decently in. I think that Franklin and Marshall is a complete outlier, but if you want to say who Biden's moving up, yes, you can see several polls with Trump up, and then the more recent ones, even when you include everyone, Biden sitting plus 2, plus 3. So this would be the one swing state where Biden is starting to perform better. Overall, most of the swing states, Trump still leads, but that one with Biden plus 10 is a total outlier. Rhode Island, Biden up. He's obviously going to win Rhode Island. South Dakota, obviously going to go to Donald Trump, up by around 29 there. Tennessee, another heavy Republican state with Trump, up by around 20. Texas, a state that Hillary Clinton thought that she had a chance to win back in 2016. I think Trump's going to win that state by around 7, maybe 10 points at the most there. Utah is going to go to Trump as well. Could be a big third-party influence in Utah. It normally is, but I still think Trump should win it very comfortably. Vermont is going to go to Biden, obviously, probably by around 25 to 30. Virginia is another interesting one I'd like to see more polling on. It was thought that Minnesota and Virginia would be next up for Trump, possibly being competitive in more states. The recent polling, it's just head-to-head, though. I want to see RFK Jr. involved in some of these polls in Virginia. Possibly that will help Trump a bit. Biden sitting plus 5 and plus 6 recently. Nikki Haley leading a poll by 9 over Biden back in February. Hilarious. 2 polls. Wow. They really like Nikki Haley. That's why Trump should make Nikki Haley his VP. I'm joking. Washington, Biden's going to win that state by a similar margin as Oregon, probably by around 10 to 15 points. And then you do have West Virginia with just a single poll in October, Trump plus 37. Wisconsin, another huge swing state, very, very close. Recent polling suggests even. Biden plus 1, plus 3, Trump plus 4, plus 4. Basically tied right now. Wisconsin is basically tied. And then Wyoming, Trump plus 53 to round out all the state polling there. And then this is basically what the map would be based on recent polling. You could argue that Wisconsin could be a slight lean to Biden, but based on all the polling, how we've seen the polls operate in past years, certainly if it's tied, you're going to want to give the benefit to Trump because he always seems to overperform in the polls. So Republicans sitting at 293, Democrats 245. That's basically completely non-biased. That's just where the polls are at right now, even with Biden's little run he's had. You know, I know 538 doesn't include all the polls, but still, this is basically where we're at. In Pennsylvania, you could certainly argue is a pure swing state. It might swing to Trump. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.